Hey everyone, it's Types, and Pitch Black slash Abyssai has been out in Japan for I think around a week at this point, so I figured today was the perfect time to rank the cards in, the set here, and specifically looking at the better cards. But we are actually starting with a tier list I made previously, One Common Fossil, on the Reasonably Effective podcast, which you can check that out after this if you haven't, seen that. Obviously, you can see the results here, but you can hear our discussion. I'm going to be talking about these cards some and re-ranking some of the ones that I think we kind of got wrong based on early results. But I also want to, take a look at it. I think it's interesting to take a look back at, older tier lists. Not that it's that much older. Though I suppose tell me in the comment section if you want me to look back at, my tier list from previous sets and things like that. But there are definitely some things that I wanted to update with this tier list, and then obviously add in, the cards that weren't revealed at the time in which we, made that video there to give a more complete tier list. I'm going to spend not too much time on the older cards though, but I will talk about them some. Specifically, the ones I want to change. Those cards are specifically looking at Mega Excadrill EX is probably the big one. Mega Excadrill EX is a card that what it does is it says, oh, let's look at it in English. That'd probably be a bit better here. Mega Excadrill EX has 2 attacks. It does 90 for 2 and mills 2, and then for 3 it does 200, and then for 5 it does 330. I don't think this card is very good. I don't think it's the worst of the cards in the set though. It is not super good. I guess I'll talk about the tiers here as well, and like kind of define what they are. So S tier is, like super good. Set might have, maybe one S tier card in it, maybe a few in the very best sets, and lots of sets won't have S tier cards in them as well, or some sets certainly won't. And then A tier is, pretty good, not like broken, but pretty good. And then B tier is, kind of your generic cards that see play, not necessarily a ton of play, but some play. There's certainly all right cards here. Currently the 2 cards in B tier. I'm going to talk about Bastiodon. I think I was a little higher on that. Let's be honest, Bastiodon probably isn't super good, but it's not bad either. It's actually a good wall, but it has some holes in it because it can't be in the active extra. It actually has to be on the bench, and it walls Pokemon with 2 energy or less, which is most Pokemon, but then, your opponent can just attach more energy as well, so it's not a wall that will just win you the game there either, but and then Dark Bell is like fine, but also not super interesting to be honest, but not a bad card. And then C tier is, some of the weaker cards that see play that are, a little more niche, or some of the more interesting, or I guess like better cards that are, in rogue decks, like pretty rogue decks, not like I'd say probably Festival to probably be B tier. So this would be like, decks that aren't super good. A lot of the cards in the set are going to end up in C tiers, you can see here. Though I'm maybe a little high on some of these because this set has a lot of cards I really like in it that are really fun. Then D tier is not good. Pretty much these can really end up in F tier. F tier is really bad. That would be like random previous evolutions and stuff like that would probably end up in F tier. F tier is like completely unplayable. So yeah, we don't have anything there, and we're not. I don't think gonna have anything. But Mega Excadrill EX certainly not D tier. I do think it is C tier though. I will put it at the top of C tier. Anyways, 330 for 3, as I was saying, is or sorry, 330 for 5 is what it is like not super good. This card, as I said, has been seeing some play in Japan, but it's not super good. It's okay, I guess. I don't know. I think it's pretty not good. Not terrible, but not good. And then looking at other cards on this tier list here, I feel like okay with it. I'd probably rearrange some of the ordering, to be honest. Maybe I don't know. I'd just switch things up probably a little bit. Maybe something like this. I don't really know, to be honest, but I'll do something like that. Ultimately, it doesn't matter too much the ordering within the tiers though. But it's more so the tiers the cards are in there. And then Bastiodon, I'm a bit too high on. As I said, it walls Pokemon with 2 energy or less attached, but it's a stage 2 fossil. There's Fossil Excavation Site, which I think is an A tier card. The cards around it are, and as I said, I talked about this with like how Fossil, and he had really good analysis there. But the card itself is really good, but the cards around it are really bad, so it's kind of hard to judge. Bastiodon is interesting though, as theoretically a good wall. I think if this wasn't a fossil, it would be, a little bit better. I don't know if it'd be super good still though, but it is a really good wall, but also on a stage 2. So I'm gonna drop it down to C tier. I will keep it actually above Mega Excadrill, though I think it is a little bit better than it. Then we move to the new cards here. I have I believe, all the EXs. Tell me in the comment section if I missed a card. Obviously, I don't have all the cards from the set in this, so if there's a card you want me to cover that I'm just not talking about, I can also talk about that there. But we have Lurantis EX first. I guess I'll look in Pokemon Proxies as well. Lurantis EX here, if you heal it, does 2/6. This is kind of cool. Obviously, you need to heal it. Healing a Pokemon isn't, like, theoretically super hard. But you need to be damaged, right? So you need to damage yourself and then heal yourself. I mean, you could get hit into and then heal yourself, but your opponent needs to play into that, and you can't do this super early. I mean, I guess if you get Badooed, you can do it. But then if you're Badooed, I feel like the ways you're healing yourself are like Potion. Is Potion a standard? I don't know. It's not a card people play. Yeah, Potion apparently was in perfect order, which I didn't know. I guess I knew. I don't know. It's something that isn't a very good card. But anyways, you can use Potion if you're Badooed. You can't Potion, but there are some different options to heal. And this card is okay, I think. It's, going to end up in C tier, unsurprisingly, probably around here, somewhere in the middle, as a mediocre card. Not a card I really expect to see play, not the flashiest card. Actually, I'll put it above. I mean, I think Mega Excadrill still isn't very good, and as I said, it has seen some play in Japan, but I don't expect it to see a lot of long-term play. I think it's going to completely fall off, and don't really think it has too much going for it either. Then we got Mega Wailord EX, another really big Pokemon here. What it is big. That's its thing. It's got a lot of HP. Its attacks are pretty bad, though. This Pokemon isn't super good. This will be another C-tier Pokemon. Unsurprisingly, we're going to see that for probably... Are we going to see it for literally all the EXs that I'm going to be ranking this video, other than, Pardos EX here? I don't know, but this will be C-tier. I'll put it actually above Lurantis. I'll put it next to these other Stage 1 EXs here. It is able to do... Its attacks aren't super good. They're pretty bad, but there is Misty's, which we'll talk about, which is also not super good. But, you have a lot of HP, which is cool. We've seen Wailords in the past C-play literally just because they have high HP, so that is possible. It's not super good. I don't expect it to see legitimate play very much, or really much at all, but it is, it could see play potentially. I think that's true for anything in C tier here. Then we have Mega Zeraora EX. Mega Zeraora EX is kind of cool at doing 60 future energy attached to it, and then you're also looking at 150 hit and run. This is okay lightning attacking option. Not super good. I don't really expect to see much play. As I said, seen a little bit of play in like a previous video I talked about. I think my video from yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. I talked a little bit about Mega Zeraora EX and some decks on like PokéCat book there, but Mega Zeraora EX being able to, just go ahead and do big damage is cool. But we've seen big basic Megas be able to do this and not really see play, and this isn't super good at doing it either. It's probably getting one shot a bunch as well. So overall, I'd say that this card is also not super good, also not like terrible either. Going to go in C tier. Unsurprisingly, I'll probably put it below Mega Darkrai. Feels fine. I'll put it below Geo as well. I'll actually move the special energy all the way down because it's kind of bad, but the opportunity cost isn't that bad. Then we look at Morpeko EX. This card is also not super. I guess Mega Chandelure first. Mega Chandelure here is a card that increases retreat cost your points active, and then also does more damage to each Colossus in their retreat cost. This card's kind of like Phytops EX, which wasn't very good. It saw some play. A little. I don't know if it was. I mean, I know it wasn't that much. I don't know exactly how much. Let's see. Yeah, so it saw a little bit of play in some tournaments and was used for some control stuff. Obviously, this is a stage 1, not a stage. Or sorry, this is a stage 2. The other one was stage 1. So this card is also. This is pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. This is gonna be in D tier. I don't really expect it to see much play. I've seen some people playing it in Japan as well, but I really don't get it. And it's not like as much as these other. I mean, not as much as like Mega Excadrill, which is another card which I was pretty low on. So I'm not gonna bring it up the tier list much for that. Then we have Morpeko EX. This one does, I don't remember what it does. Oh yeah, so you shuffle your hand to your deck, draw 6 for 1 darkness. It's an okay, I mean, I guess a good attack is like a second option, but it's not what you want to play the card for. And then you do 40 more for each damage counter on this Pokemon. With Toxtricity, you can get, you're looking at 4 with 2, which is fine, and then you're doing 200. It's not super good. I could see it seeing a little bit of play. Actually, kind of like Mega Darkrai EX. I would say it's a bit weaker. Mega Darkrai does 220 if you have damage counters on your bench Pokemon. I think it's a little easier to attack within Morpeko EX. Obviously, It's a mega. It has a second attack as well, which is a little interesting, though not super good. And also, it's a mega, so it gives up 3 prizes, but it does have more HP there. So some differences, but I'll put more Pico right below it. Then we have the single prizes, which I think are a bit more interesting. The EXs are always kind of flashy, but they're not always interesting. But the single prizes are really interesting. Looking at the first deck here, which is going to be the Ghost Veil deck. Ghost Veil is an ability that protects the Pokemon with it from attacks and or effects of attacks and abilities. So this is going to stop, Dragapult EX's bench damage counters and some other things kind of like that. I've said before, I don't think this deck is going to, completely push out Dragapult or anything like that. I've heard some people say that. I think that's kind of crazy, but the deck is still kind of interesting. We have 4 different pieces here. We have the Sinistcha, which this card does. It has the ability, and so does the Bayonet. The Bayonet has the ability, but its attack is 80. Search for card, which I don't think is very good. I mean, it's not terrible, but I don't think it's a super interesting payoff there. Sinistcha puts 4 damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon, which is a bit more interesting. I'll put Bayonet in D tier, or I'll put Bayonet in D tier. The ability obviously is a reason to play it. So if you want to say like, oh, this card's going to see play because it has the ability, then that's fair. I'm going to use like the same criteria I use for like previous evolutions. Like I wouldn't say Dreepy is a good card in standard, because it doesn't like do anything. Yes, it is required to evolve into Dracloak and the Dragapult EX there, but Dreepy itself doesn't really do anything. So that's just my general idea there. But anyways, if you want to say it's higher up, that's fine. That's just a criteria thing there. But then you look at the Sinistcha. I think that one's a little more interesting. Being able to just go ahead and do some cool spread stuff, and then that's if you have 6 or more. 6 or more Pokemon in the discard with the Ghost Veil ability, of which there are a total of 16. This is definitely a usable option within the deck, as we'll kind of talk about. The Dhelmise does 170 if you have 4 more Pokemon in the discard with this ability, which is definitely the best of them. I think Dhelmise is probably a B tier card. I don't think it's like crazy broken, but I think it's pretty good. Might even legitimately be A tier, though I'm not quite ready to give it all of that. It's a little clunky. I don't know. It's pretty good though. It does a lot of damage. I could see it in A tier. I guess I should probably put an A tier when I think about it. And then I think Sinistcha is probably like top of C tier here, and maybe even like a bit lower than. This is probably fine. Its attack's not super good, but you'll use it from time to time. And then the Spiritomb, if you have 13 or more Pokemon in this card with this with this ability, then you have the attack that quadruples the damage on 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. It is funny. I don't think it's actually like really good at all, to be honest. I mean, the attack, what it actually does is okay. The condition is really difficult, so that kind of rounds out to being pretty bad, unfortunately. I will put it in C tier here. I'm going to put it in like the middle of C tier somewhere. I don't know, like near the bottom, somewhere around here. It's not a card I really expect to be good. I think it's really fun, but it also really forces you to just like lean so much more into the Ghost Veil archetype, which isn't like a bad archetype, but it requires you to play more Pokemon with Ghost Veil that aren't really doing anything like the Bayonet there and stuff like that. Honestly, this might even be better, or the Bayonet might even be better than the Spiritomb, but I don't know. I'm not very excited by it. But I guess I'll move it out of D tier to C tier. Again, I don't really think it's going to be used much at all for anything other than just having the ability, which I'm not really giving it credit for. Well, having the ability and just discarding it. It doesn't like, it within itself doesn't like do for that. So the ability does give you some protection from stuff, but it's not actually that useful protection, I don't think. Then we have a handful of other single prizers. The other ones aren't super interesting. The first one here is going to be this Manectric. This one walls evolutions, which is like kind of cool. It's seen a little bit of play with Mega Manectric EX. It's fun, I suppose, but I don't think it's super good. Want to include it. This is probably the last card I included. That I was, kind of thinking of cutting here. And this card is fine, I guess. I don't know. It's just not super good, right? Let's be honest. It'll probably be. Honestly, it's probably a D tier card. It's not very good there. Mega Manectric EX, let's be honest, isn't that good. It's okay. I think it's kind of fun. It's a card that got, at least from a lot of people on YouTube, they were saying that the card was like crazy, and it's not been crazy. It's been the opposite of that. It's been quite boring, I'd say. Not like a terrible card. Certainly not a very good card though. It's kind of bad. Then we have the next card here, which is this Toucan. This is a card I was also like kind of wrong about. I've talked about it actually a bunch on the channel, and it's a weird card, but it does damage based on bench Pokemon. It does pretty decent damage here on stage 2. You have some draw as well, which is like kind of cool. But Toucan allows you to go ahead and do some big damage, which is decent. I think this card is C tier. I don't think it's going to see a lot of play in the long term, but so far in Japan, it's some play. It's an okay card. A pretty generic card, but an okay card nonetheless. Then we have Silvally. This card is so sick. Probably my favorite card in this set. Not the best card in this set, but my favorite one here. What it does is once to your turn, you can use this ability. If you have no cards in hand, you search for a supporter, reveal it, put it into your hand. This is cool. You can do 130 for 3 as well, which is, I don't know, it's 130 for 3, right? It's whatever. But Buddy Call here, searching for a supporter if you have no cards in hand. I really like it. Obviously, there's some supporters this doesn't really work with, but there are a lot that it works pretty well with. And searching supporters is good. I'm, funnily enough, a big fan of this and not a huge fan of Meowth. Not that it's like bad, but I just don't really play it. Because Meowth is a liability, this isn't really a liability. I will say the basic is not searchable off of Fan Rotom, which kind of sucks. I think it expanded. It is. Let me double check on that one. Yeah, expanded. Yeah, there is one type null with 100 HP there, but not really, that important. So Silvally being able to search for a supporter, searching supporters is good. Supporters in standard, I've said this a lot, aren't super good. But they're, obviously, well, it's good to have supporters, but the supporters that you have access to with the rotation aren't super good. Other than Lilies, which you want as a 4 of in like every deck, and then Boss is also very good, but you don't want that really as a 4 of. I mean, it could be a 4 of, but you're not playing 4, you just need it at certain points, and being able to search it then obviously helps with that. There are other good supporters like Wally's as well, and Crispin, and these other utility supporters that aren't looking to play in high counts because they don't do stuff all that often. But there are times when they are, super huge, and Silvally allows you to find them. Obviously, needing no cards in hand is a pretty rough restriction there, and it's kind of clunky. Prism Tower does help it some. I haven't played much with Prism Tower yet because it is new from Chaos Rising, but I think it is with Silvally maybe an interesting idea there. And then like Gumshoes, I don't know about that one. But then obviously you have Ultra Ball as like the main enabler, and you can play lots of items, and then just a handful of interesting supporters there, and be able to search them when you need them. Is this card good enough? Probably not, let's be honest, but it is really cool. It's an awesome card. In terms of how good it is probably C tier. I think it's okay. I'll put it in like kind of the middle of C tier here. Then we got the trainers and special energy. We got Heroic Bomb. This one, if it's attached to a non-mega, and you take a 240 from a mega, you do 120 in return, or you put 12 damage counters there. So this is, I don't know. I was gonna say but like I don't know. It's not that good, right? Let's be honest. We've seen cards like this in the past. They're honestly some ways underrated because they are damage that's happening pretty consistently. This one is not as consistent because megas also aren't that good, but they're not bad. I mean, they're like okay, but they're obviously not the centralizing thing of the metagame. The centralizing thing of the metagame is, well, that's Dragapult. You probably do know that one, and I know that, and we all know that megas are fine, but not not crazy, not crazy. I don't know why I keep saying you, but Heroic Bomb is fine, and so I'll put it in C tier. Surprisingly, a lot of things in C tier. C tier for a trainer, though, is kind of unfortunate because that means that these cards they're propped up the tier list a little bit by being a bit more universal, especially like Heroic Bomb is a bit more universal. Works theoretically in most decks there, but this card it's just not super strong. Not super weak either. It's mediocre in a very, I'd say, underwhelming way, but I'll put it in C tier here. Then we got Retry Badge. This card is actually super interesting, allowing you to reflip attacks on colorless Pokemon, and there's a handful which really want this. Specifically looking at Mega Kangaskhan EX, but there's a bunch of silly ones. There's a bunch of pretty decent ones as well, like Mega Audino EX, and there's a handful of others. As I talked about in a previous video, this card works with Lugia EX, and there's just a bunch of different things there, which is kind of fun. I don't know exactly how good this card will be, but I do think it will see some legitimate competitive play. I don't think it will see a ton or be like a true staple, though I could see it being a pseudo staple in some decks with Mega Kangaskhan. Not exactly sure what that would be. There's obviously the toolbox decks. And then it's in a lot of different decks there, right? Obviously, you're looking at it, it being an attacker. If it's just support, you're not going to play Retry Badge there. But I think this card is B tier. I think it's all right. Putting it next to Dark Bell feels completely fair. Then we have Misty's Energy. This ends your turn, but you search for 4 basic water energy, attach them to one of your Pokemon. It accelerates a bunch of energy, but also ends your turn. I think it's kind of bad. I don't think it's super bad. I'm going to put it actually right next to Wailord EX. Feels completely fine by me. It's not a... I mean, in some ways, it's explosive, kind of like Kiawe, which is the same thing, I believe. Is Kiawe actually the same thing? It is fire, so it's not exactly the same, but Kiawe... yeah, is the same thing. Kiawe saw some play. Fire was really good though. Water is not really good. Or Fire was really good when Kiawe was around, specifically with Welder. Welder was also like so much better than Kiawe, so it's kind of weird. But Misty's energy is okay. I could see it seeing play if we see some slower. I mean, it ends your turn. That feels bad, right? So I don't know what type of deck you're looking at this in. Obviously, there is the Wailord EX, which almost required because it's so expensive, but the payoff isn't that good. It's just kind of there because it kind of has to be there. So overall, Misty's energy could see play, and I wouldn't be shocked if it sees some. I'd be shocked if it sees a lot, but also looking, looking at standard where we have a current metagame, the current cards we have, as well as I guess the new reveals like Wailord EX. I don't think it has a super logical partner there. Then we have the next card here, Gladiance, Decisive Battle. This one you can only play if it's last card in your hand, meant to be paired with the Silvally here. But then you do 80 more to your opponent's Pokemon. Your opponent's active if the Pokemon you're attacking with doesn't have a rule box. This is interesting. I've seen it in Festival Lead, which seems cool, but I think in general it's pretty decent. It is a little clunky to find at the right time, just like I was talking about with Silvally. That being said, the payoff is pretty decent, not like broken payoff or anything, but I do think the card is good, not great, not crazy value there, but it is a decent card that will see some play. I'm gonna put it at the top of C tier, not make it all the way into B tier. All these cards are kind of meh. I don't think it's a crazy good card, but it's all right. We have the last few cards here, which are actually I think they're all gonna be above C tier if I'm not mistaken. Rust Syndicate Grunt here. If your Pokemon was knocked out last turn, then you can discard energy from your opponent's Pokemon. Pretty simple, pretty solid. I think it's gonna see play. I'll put it in B tier here. I guess I'll put it below Dark Bell as a decent disruptive card. Not a card. I mean, it's a card that could swing games at some point. I was talking about supporters that are, somewhat situational, but pretty nice. And yeah, this is a card that fits that pretty well. Then we have Gwyn, the next card here. Gwyn is a supporter that says you discard up to 2 Pokemon that don't have rule boxes. Again, could use a parentheses, like I've said in the past, because it doesn't clarify. I mean, it does clarify, as in it like changes what it does, but it's not just clarifying something that you'd assume already. But anyways, you get to draw 3 cards for each card that you discard in this way. So you could draw up to 6. Draw 6 is good. I've been playing Explorer's Guide, and that card is pretty nice. List Determination, obviously, very good. And yeah, I mean, overall, draw 6 is good. The downside of needing to discard the Pokemon is, I mean, having Pokemon in your hand to discard, sometimes you just won't have, which will mean this card is bad, right? If you haven't done it, it's nothing. If you discard 1, draw 3, that's not very good. But then if you have the Pokemon in your hand, losing them usually isn't too bad of a consequence there. And you can, probably recover them. And if you can't, you can get more. It's just generally fine there. Overall, I think this card is good. And it's seeing play so far in Japan as well. Unsurprisingly, it's seeing play in Ghost Veil, where it's kind of intended to be played. But overall, it's just a pretty good card. I think it is probably an A tier card here. Not going to quite put it in S tier, but I do think it is the best card in this set. I don't think it's quite as good as Special Red card or as Meowth EX or Pokebad, certainly, but I think it's close to Meowth EX and Special Red card. I think the card's pretty good and a little underrated, not being talked about that much so far compared to how good it is. Then we have the last card that's new, which is Bolty Lightning Energy. This card is a special energy, just like the other ones, where it's, that type being lightning here when it's attached to any Pokemon. And then if it's attached to a lightning Pokemon, then you do 20 more damage. So you're doing 20 more. We've seen this in the past. It's been good every time we've seen it. And yeah, it's going to be good again here. Lightning is not super good, but this card is good. Quite simply, it's a good card. I'm going to put it in A tier. I'll put it actually above Dhelmise. I'll put it above the Stadium as well. The Stadium is cool, the Fossil one. Again, the partners aren't super good, which I guess is also true for the Special Energy. But overall, the set has some decent stuff, legitimately. We see obviously a lot of stuff in C tier, but a bunch of pretty good cards as well that I think are not being talked about too much. But tell me down below in the comment section your thoughts on this set, if you're excited, if you're not excited. Any, videos you want me to make as well. New decks, I'd love some new decks. I'm currently looking for some and trying out some fun stuff, but especially new stuff from Chaos Rising. I'd want to try out some stuff from that. But I hope you all enjoyed. Make sure you like, subscribe. Also, huge shouts to my YouTube members for supporting the channel. It really does mean a lot. But just everyone who watches the videos and likes and subscribes, that also really means a ton. And also sharing and all that good stuff. But I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.